As we look back on 2025, few industries in the global headlines more than digital assets and cryptocurrencies. From sweeping regulatory reforms in Washington to mainstream financial services adoption, and of course, plenty of controversy. It was a historic year in every sense. Joining me is our friend here in Metro Atlanta, Rubicon Digital Assets CEO and NYU professor Greg Johnson, to share his thoughts and insights. Always good to see you, Greg.
You too, Cheryl. Happy holidays to you and to everybody.
Thanks so much. So let's begin with those 2025 headlines from the crypto industry. What are some of the major developments from the past year that really stand out to you, especially those that could have some lasting impacts to everyday investors?
Listen, the story of crypto in 2025 begins and ends in Washington, D.C. and on Pennsylvania Avenue with President Trump. There's never been anything like this, where you've seen an industry that supported a candidate in a presidential election, and they were rewarded immediately and often, widely and deeply, that being crypto and blockchain and digital assets. From that, we saw massive transformation overnight almost, Cheryl, in terms of the way that regulators operated, the way that we dealt with crypto and thought about crypto from a government level, and that trickled down into business. So, for example, the only bipartisan legislation that's been passed so far in the Trump administration 2.0, that is, has been having to do with crypto. We've talked about it here at 11 Alive. It was the Genius Act. It had to do with arguably the killer app so far with the crypto industry, and that being stable coins. So that was a big one of the headlines, was the Trump election, all of the industry benefits that have come from that in terms of open-mindedness, fair play, and the regulatory regimes allowing the crypto industry to operate as a normal business. Now, I say normal because the other big headline that we have to talk about is normalization. So last year, we saw companies that are household names that directly impact many people who are investors probably watching this particular segment. So Bank of America, Vanguard, Morgan Stanley, I could go on and on. Virtually all of the other major institutions have come in, embracing and leaning in at least into crypto ever since the Trump administration took office back in January. So that's just a snapshot. And I think we also have to say, my goodness, one of the major headlines from this month is that the crypto markets are also retracting. We've seen a 30% decline from the all-time highs in October in the last 6 weeks or so. So a lot to talk about.
And you were recently in Washington, D.C. to give remarks at the U.S. Senate on the subjects of crypto and emerging technologies. Can you share a little bit more about that with everyone?
And yes, I was invited to a closed gathering, a forum of parliamentary leaders from, I think, someone in the neighborhood of about 75 different nations. And really, this is a gathering that's been going on for a little bit more than a decade to take a look and examine, this being the allied partners, the ministers and foreign representatives and industry experts from around the world that are looking to do business and are allies of the United States. And in this particular forum, the subject of emerging technologies was everywhere. And certainly that's what I was briefing the audience on, was this nexus. In other words, this entanglement of both crypto, artificial intelligence, which everybody else wants to talk about, and of course, quantum technologies. And the three of those are literally almost shrink wrapped together. And too often we're having these conversations in individual silos. So it's one of those rare places to do something where we can talk about emerging tech in front of very, very important politicians and decision makers in global countries around the topic of exponential technologies. And Cheryl, just to remind everybody, people are going to start hearing exponential tech more and more, and it may not resonate with people, but think of it this way. If you take 30 linear steps, you just basically walk across your living room. 30 exponential steps is orbiting around the moon and back. And this is the kind of world we're in right now with tech adoption, with exponential technologies like AI and quantum. So hold on in 2026.
What predictions do you have for the year ahead?
All right, I'm going to give you first one of the weakest predictions of all, and that is that for your overhyped word of the year in 2026, it's going to be tokenization. And you're going to hear about tokenization everywhere, from the government to your financial services companies to local communities are going to be talking about tokenization. Essentially, tokenization is taking a smart contract that wraps around existing assets or physical property or your car title or your property title. We've been talking about these things a little bit over the last 10 years in this industry, but tokenization has gotten more traction. The largest asset manager in the world, BlackRock, said earlier this year that all assets will be tokenized. I'm inclined to believe them. So that's my weak prediction. And now a little bit more of a prediction that's out on the limb and a little bit more controversial, because I do believe that 2026 will be the year where a couple of the dirty little secrets in the crypto industry, all this euphoria that has taken place in 2025, are going to become plainly visible, like one of those Star Trek cloaking devices will malfunction, and everyone's going to wake up and see something that some of us have been concerned about for a while. Right now, one of those secrets has to do with the overall capabilities of these high-profile blockchains. I won't mention any of them right now, but many of them, which are household names in the crypto industry, they boast about transactions per second. So companies like Visa and MasterCard and payments companies, they do tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of transactions a second on their legacy systems. Well, blockchain has been saying, hey, we're the new kids on the block. We're better than you are. And yet so far, the numbers of transactions per second have been anemic. In other words, vastly underperforming. So this has largely been overlooked, but now that we have normalization, all the banks and institutions are going to come in and say, wait a second, I thought we were supposed to have something with more horsepower. That's number one. And related to that, we're still seeing a lot of failures in these transactions that are being processed on blockchain. So congratulations to the industry. Normalization is important. I'm very excited about it. But now it's time for the industry to fix some of these holes that are in the foundation of blockchain and get rid of these dirty little secrets, Cheryl.
The honeymoon may be over, and I will remember tokenization and remember that I heard it here first. Greg Johnson, CEO of Rubicon Digital Assets and our Atlanta-based source for all things crypto. Always appreciate the time. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone. Thanks, Cheryl.